everyone tells you the Bermuda Triangle swallowed 5 bombers whole. That's wrong. And the real transcript of what happened is honestly scarier than the myth. Welcome back to Tea with Chills. Grab your cup. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what went wrong in the final hour of Flight 19, in the crew's own words, and why the official investigation still couldn't close the case the way you'd expect. December 5th, 1945. World War II just ended 4 months earlier. Fort Lauderdale's Naval Air Station is winding down from wartime missions into training mode, which meant the base was full of instructors, trainees, and aircraft that had recently been flying combat runs over the Pacific and Atlantic. Flight 19, 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers, 14 men. The Avenger was a proven aircraft, heavy, stable, the same type used to sink Japanese warships during the war. But it was also a demanding machine to fly, especially over open water with no visual landmarks. Leading the flight was Lieutenant Charles Taylor. Taylor had flown combat missions in the Pacific and had more than 2,400 flight hours. But he was new to Fort Lauderdale, and this was his first time running this specific navigation route. In fact, records show Taylor had gotten disoriented and had to ditch on 2 earlier occasions during the war. Not related to this flight, but part of a pattern worth noting. The plan for December 5th was routine. Fly out over the Bahamas, run a simulated bombing drill on a shipwreck used as a target, then fly back to base. A checklist mission, the kind flown dozens of times a month. Nobody expected what came next, a total loss of situational awareness that would put 5 aircraft hundreds of miles from where anyone thought to look. Takeoff was 2:10 p.m. Clear skies, calm wind, ideal flying weather, logged as some of the best conditions of the month. The first hour went exactly to plan. The squadron reached the target, ran their bombing exercise, and turned to head home. Then it started to unravel. Taylor's compass began giving inconsistent readings. In that moment, there's a golden rule drilled into every navigator. Trust your landmarks and your training, not a hunch. And never abandon a working compass for a gut feeling. Taylor did the opposite. Flying over a chain of small islands, he decided they matched the Florida Keys, which would have meant they were much further south and west than they actually were. They weren't over the Keys. They were roughly 200 miles northeast of where Taylor believed, still out over the Bahamas. And every course correction he ordered after that point took them further from land, not closer to it. Here's the part most retellings skip, and it's the actual key to this story. It's not a sea monster, it's confirmation bias. Once Taylor had convinced himself he knew where he was, every new piece of evidence got bent to fit that belief, instead of challenging it. Junior pilots radioed in, more than once, that the islands below looked nothing like the Keys, and that flying west would bring them to the coast faster. One trainee radioed directly that he believed they should reverse course entirely. Taylor held his position. He looked at terrain that didn't match his mental map, and instead of questioning the map, he questioned the instruments. And here's the trap the rest of the squadron was caught in. These were disciplined military pilots, several of them trainees with far less flight time than Taylor. When your commanding officer insists you're heading north and your gut says east, protocol says you follow orders. That chain of command, built specifically to keep formations safe and coordinated, is what kept 5 planes flying the wrong way for hours, while at least one pilot on the radio clearly suspected they were making a mistake. If you're into these fact-first breakdowns of unexplained mysteries, subscribing helps this channel keep making them. Now, here's what the radio actually caught, because the transcript is more unsettling than any theory about the triangle. The radio logs from that afternoon are hard to sit with. You can hear the confusion building in real time, and you can hear it being suppressed by rank. Junior pilots pushing for a westward turn toward what they believed was the Florida coastline. Ground control at Fort Lauderdale trying to guide them in, but the signal was garbled. Flight 19 had drifted far enough that radio contact was fading in and out, and atmospheric interference that afternoon made it worse. At one point, Captain Stiver, one of the trainees, asked the question that says everything about where the squadron's confidence actually stood. Doesn't anyone know where we are? Taylor's answer was to stay the course and keep flying east, further out over open water. By this point in the transcript, it's clear several pilots suspected they were heading the wrong way. But orders were orders, and nobody broke formation. Every minute spent flying in the wrong direction burned fuel they had no way of getting back. By the time the scale of the error was undeniable, the sun was going down, and they were far beyond any realistic gliding distance to shore. As the fuel gauges dropped toward empty, night fell, and the Atlantic after dark, far from any coastline, gave the crews almost no margin for error. Water landings were dangerous for the Avenger, even in daylight. It wasn't designed to ditch gently. and doing it blind at night in a rising sea left almost no room for mistakes. With no fuel left, the squadron had no choice but to go down together. 14 men, 5 aircraft, and a stretch of ocean nowhere near where the official search would begin the next morning. Because Taylor's last reported position was so far off that rescuers were looking in almost the wrong part of the Atlantic entirely. And the search that followed was massive. Over the following days, the Navy and Coast Guard deployed roughly 300 ships and more than 20 aircraft, covering hundreds of thousands of square miles of ocean. No wreckage, no debris, no survivors were ever recovered. To this day, none of the 5 aircraft have been conclusively located. It gets worse before it gets clearer. Hours into the search, a PBM Mariner flying boat was dispatched to help, and it disappeared too, along with everyone on board. Again, no mystery here, just another documented mechanical failure. The PBM Mariner had a known design flaw involving fuel vapor buildup in its bilges, which made it prone to explosions if fumes ignited, a hazard well known enough that crews had given the aircraft a grim nickname. A merchant ship in the area reported seeing an explosion and burning debris in the sky at roughly the time the Mariner would have been in that area. It wasn't pulled into anything supernatural. It was a known mechanical risk, flying into difficult conditions during an emergency response. That loss added 13 more names to the toll from a single afternoon. Here's the twist that actually explains why this case became a legend instead of a footnote. The official Navy Board of Inquiry investigated for months and ultimately listed the cause as, in their words, unknown, largely because no wreckage was ever recovered to confirm exactly how or where the planes went down. That single word, unknown, is what later writers took and ran with, turning a tragic but explainable chain of navigational errors into evidence of something paranormal. Every later claim about magnetic anomalies, vanishing instruments, or interdimensional portals traces back to authors writing decades after the fact, embellishing details that don't appear anywhere in the original transcripts or investigation records. The weather was calm. The compasses had ordinary, documented mechanical issues. The ocean simply did what oceans do to aircraft that run out of fuel over open water at night. So, no vortex, no aliens, no time warp. Flight 19 is a story about one compass error, a chain of command nobody was willing to break, and a rescue plane with a known design flaw, all converging on the same unforgiving afternoon, which honestly might be the scarier version. Not that something otherworldly reached up and took them, but that it was a handful of very human mistakes, stacked one on top of the other, in the dark, over open water. The same kind of mistakes that could happen to anyone under enough pressure, with enough authority telling them to hold the course. If this cleared things up for you, tell me in the comments. And if you want the next unexplained mystery broken down the same way, you know what to do.